Welcome back to Seen and Heard. And this week we had the pleasure of renewing acquaintances with the Everly brothers, who arrived in London after some appearances at Batley in Yorkshire. And first I spoke with the parents of the Everly brothers, Ike and Margaret Everly, who are accompanying them on this British trip. But of course, this is not the first time that the Everly family has performed together.
That's correct, Johnny. That's correct. We had a family show, and we enjoyed every minute of it. And we had lots of fun. Back in radio, we sang together. And Don and Phil started. Phil was 6 and Don was 8. And they start, Phil, he couldn't sing too much. He'd come down, he'd tell a little joke, you know, and he'd be on the program, but it was the 4 Everlys. And that was what was important to us.
And this was in Nashville?
No, this was in the Midwest, in the state of Iowa, up in the corn belt, corn country they call it. And that's where we did most of our radio work. We finally drifted back to Tennessee before Margaret and I kindly, well, you know, after Bye Bye Love and Wake Up Little Susie, well, that's kind of, you know the rest of the answer to that.
Well, we had retired before the doing so well like Bye Bye Love coming out. We were working and supporting the family while Don and Phil looked around in Nashville, see. So we took them to the center of Music City, USA, and that gave them the opportunity to look around, and we were out working all day and paying the bills.
You know, before, when we quit, it was kind of, the business quit us. You know, the radio work kind of played out over there. And like Margaret says, we went to work at some other kind of work and kind of sponsored Don and Phil, so to speak. And but now we're lonesome, and we love the business. We just can't stay quit, you know. We can't stay retired. Don't intend to.
Mrs. Everly, of all the records that Phil and Don have made together, which do you think is the one that appeals most to you?
Well, the biggest impact would be a Bye Bye Love, because it was something that was, you didn't believe, you know, really. You wondered if it was really happening to you. But there's some favorites, naturally, and I like all of them. I think the sound, Till I Kissed You, they all have a special meaning. Don wrote
Till I Kissed You, yeah.
Till I Kissed You, and he came back from Australia on a tour, and he sat down and he said, listen to this song. And it was something special when he told you, listen to this song. And each one turned out like that. He'd say, when they were writing, well, you was part of it, you heard them writing it, and they're all special, so in that way.
Never felt like this until I kissed you. How did I exist until I kissed you? Never had you on my mind. Now you're there all the time. Never knew what I missed till I kissed you. I kissed you.
Till I Kissed You. Well, that was, of course, a million seller for the Everly brothers. And next, I spoke to Don Everly about it.
That was very big. Jerry Allison of the Crickets played on that session. In fact, that session was the first time that tom-toms had been used in the Nashville recording studio. Normally they used a set of just snare and bass drum, but J.I., as Jerry Allison is called, set up his drums in the Nashville studio with his little set of toms, which he used on Peggy Sue, the paradiddles.
Yeah.
And we used that as an integral part of Till I Kissed You.
Thinking back over the success of Don and Phil Everly, to me, I think there are two salient points as to why you and Phil stood out amongst the other acts of that time. And I think the first point must be that harmony, which is what, sort of a third harmony, isn't it? I think the voices.
I guess it can be described as that. It can be. Mitch Miller once described it as 2 mice in a barrel. That was back in the late 50s.
Your first record was, in fact, on Columbia.
Yeah, it was on Columbia. In fact, the first audition was for RCA Victor, which we're recording for now, which is even more bizarre.
Yeah. But the success came with Cadence with Bye Bye Love.
Yes, and we had been turned down by Cadence at one point. We had sent an audition tape to Archie Blyer, and it had been turned down. It just so happened that at the time of what was a sequence of events? It was that Archie Blyer decided to start a country label. We had signed as writers to Aka Froze, and he had contacted Aka Froze, and he says, well, we got these two kids and they're writing songs. And so Boodle Bryant came in and says, what about singing Bye Bye Love? I said, fine. I was interested in the session money, and no one knew it was going to happen.
Bye bye love, bye bye happiness, hello loneliness, I think I'm gonna cry. Bye bye love, bye bye sweet caress, hello emptiness, I feel like I could die. Bye bye my love, goodbye.
I mentioned first of all that the first point I thought of in your great success was the harmony singing. The other point I thought was the songs that you came up with. You've already mentioned Boodle O'Brien, and Boodle and Felice Bryan seemed to supply you with hit after hit after hit as far as songs were concerned.
Yes. Boodle, I think, is, first of all, one of the most intelligent human beings I've ever met. And he understood, at that particular point, I think, what the market could take and what it couldn't take. Because Boodle is a writer in depth, not of just pop hits at that time, but of country things and of things more, for his own taste and things. But he was able to, we could follow a little chart, so to speak, at that particular point in our career. If you do a tempo, then you build it to a little larger tempo. It's like doing a show on records. And you supply the ballad after the third hit.
I think your last record for Cadence was Till I Kissed You, was it not?
I don't remember.
And then I think Come With Kathy's Clown.
Kathy's Clown was Warner's,
Brothers,
yeah, which was almost the biggest record we ever had, which was no one expected.
Don't want your love anymore. Don't want to kiss, that's for sure. I die each time I hear this sound. Here he comes, that's Kathy's clown.
Well, after the sort of early 1960s, when hit followed hit again as it had done in the late 1950s, you got to a rather lean period before you came up again with Love Is Strange. What was happening during that period that we didn't hear much of you hit-wise?
Well, a lot of things. Let's see. First of all, the change of labels brought about also change in management.
You were no longer with Wesley Rhodes?
Yes, and we had a tremendous amount of lawsuits and such thing. And then I also had to join the Marines because I was getting a divorce. And at that particular point, if you were single and you were draftable in the States, and so we decided the best thing for our career was join the reserves. And the only thing available for me was my age was the Marine Corps. So we chose that for a 6 months period. But after that, then I came out, and we worked for a while. And then I became hooked on speed, and spent 2 or 3 years groveling with myself and the needle, and got over that. And that took about 5 years, and then the interest in the Everly Brothers had dwindled. Of course, the Beatles had then arrived, and the music had changed anyway.
But then you made this tremendous comeback in 1965 with Love Is Strange, an older song, and you sort of gave it your treatment, and bang, there you were at #1.
Yeah, here. But that was a period in time you could come to England and do television. You could do 4 television shows and almost guarantee yourself a top 10 record. I mean, Vaughn Monroe could come over. It was a matter of promotion.
Love is strange, yeah, lots of people take it for a game. Once you
upheavals of the early 1960s and what have you. How did you and Phil sort of settle down to face the latter half of the 1960s?
Well, just hard work, really. I think we've spent an awful lot of time in clubs and a lot of touring. And you learn from that, I guess.
The name you must have built up as the Everly Brothers must still have been, worth the goods anyway.
Yeah, well, it has been abused. I don't believe in rock and roll revivals. I don't think anybody can be brought back from the dead. And the only thing that keeps me interested is that hopefully that the music still maintains itself, and it seems to. As everyone else, I'd be disappointed to break up the Beatles because I felt that was a substantial vein of creativity coming into the music business.
Looking forward now, after being the Everly Brothers for so long and meaning so much for so many people, what does the future have, do you think? You've just joined a new record label, RCA Victor, away from here.
We've got the album that's almost completed as quick as the contract. Or not quicker than the contract, really.
What is the album going to be? Is it going to be a move away from the old rock country into more countrified music? Or?
I think the album is a extension of what we were doing, except that the material and our voices have matured. And I don't think you can place it and say it's rock, because it would be fun to say I have a great rock and roll number in there if you can listen to it really thing, but as yet that hasn't happened in the album, I don't think. But there's a lot of good songs in the album. Glennie and Bonnie are on the album. John Sebastian's on the album, and I'm proud of it. And I think that it will sort of cap a 2 decades or 3 decades, whatever it would cover, of Everly Brothers.
Thank you, Don Everly. Well, we'll look forward to that. Finally, though, I had a few words with Phil Everly, and I asked him how it was that their father, Ike Everly, had come to rejoin them on stage.
It came up when we went to Vegas, and then when we came to Europe this time, I really wanted to bring him. There was extenuating circumstances. One is that I have a vocal problem now, and it has to be cleared up, and he would help in that sense. And plus the fact is that it gives me a great sense of pleasure and always puts a big smile on my face. It always does when I see him on stage.
What's happened to your voice, Phil?
Just a matter of, it's a typical kind of singer's problem. And
overwork, isn't it?
I don't know, whatever it is, old age maybe. But it'll be cleared up, and it'll be fine. I put my voice back to where it was about 5-6 years ago. The one ambition I still have left is I'd like another gold record.
Thank you, Phil, and of course Don and Ike and Margaret, Mr. and Mrs. Everly, for talking with us on Seen and Heard.